I'm Michael Hodges of the Detroit News. I am the art and architecture writer at the newspaper. I also write a blog at detnews.com/architectureblog. We're here at the old headquarters of the Packard Motor Car Company, a vast abandoned industrial complex that I find really quite fascinating. I grew up on a farm in Oakland County, so I've always, perhaps from contrast, been fascinated by industrial structures. And it's my belief that it's places like this, the legacy of early 20th century industrialism, where you really find sort of the soul and guts of big Midwestern and Northeastern cities. It's fascinating to explore these and take this step back into old America, no matter where you are. But I also think that there's just a thrill in getting close to what an old English hymn used to call these dark satanic mills. So let's take a peek. Before we do, though, one warning. Coming onto this property is trespassing and puts you in some jeopardy. It's also true that there's the occasional person who may not be so nice to bump into, and there are rumors of wild dogs. So if you come to a place like this, by all means, be careful and use your head. We're right inside the Packard complex now. It's actually very cool. There are two parallel series of buildings with this road or alley running between them, and then a wonderful overpass down at the far end of this street. What I particularly love about these sorts of buildings, and which is characteristic of early 20th century industrial design, is their complex geometry. In fact, in many respects, the buildings along here, particularly the smaller ones, remind me a great deal of older buildings that have, alas, mostly disappeared in lower Manhattan and New York City. But it has very much that sort of New York industrial feel, tight, compressed. We're here on Harper Avenue at the north end of the Packard complex. What I particularly like about this viewpoint is this endless series of almost identical buildings seemingly marching to infinity. The plant is, as I said before, a full 1/2 mile long, which just seems astonishing to me. And of course, it vaults over Grand Boulevard with kind of a majestic overpass. It's fascinating to try to imagine this place when it was teeming with tens of thousands of workers, cars coming in, cars coming out, new cars being produced by the thousands. The Packard plant has been abandoned more or less for decades. The company shut down in 1956. For a long time, the city owned the property and had guards posted on occasion, but the city withdrew the guards several years ago. In the 80s and 90s, the plant was big with the sort of techno music set and raves. But things have gotten more dangerous, more broken down, more full of rusty nails and broken glass. Some people see in buildings like this, especially, well, the abandoned ruins, embarrassments that ought to be torn down to boost up the city's ego. But I see in the buildings the American past, and something heroic. And once they're torn down, our link to that past is broken forever. No.